If you want to win and win big, you are in the right place. Our guest, Jeremy Sisemore, he is winning and he is winning big. He's here to open up to you about his principles of winning. Welcome in. I am Desmond Clark, the host of Principles of Winning, where we interview highly successful entrepreneurs, executives, and athletes, politicians, and entertainers to discern the principles and disciplines that they apply to their personal and professional lives to create the mountains of success they've experienced. So you and I, we can also continue developing our personal and professional success playbooks for our own lives. And before I bring on our guest, I just want to give a shout out to my last guest, Mr. Kevin Johnson, the COO, the global function COO of Aon. Hey, thanks for stopping by. You dropped a lot of knowledge for us. And I want to give a special thank you to Alan Fisher and the Pinnacle Society, who hired me to speak back in October at their annual meeting. That's where I met today's guest. And before I bring him on, just a little short sponsor read here. This episode is brought to you by Principles of Winning. This episode of Principles of Winning is brought to you by Des Clark Speaks. Des Clark Speaks is your preferred keynote speaker and corporate team development specialist. We help executive team leaders create pinnacle team success by establishing principles of winning. Listen, we're going to bring Jeremy on here in a second, but I guarantee you that much of Jeremy's success as an entrepreneur was by way of cultivating great teams that were tied together by cohesion, culture, and clarity. If you want to learn more, go to www.desclarkspeaks.com for more information. Here we go. Let's bring on our guest, Jeremy Sisemore. He is an entrepreneur. He is a coach. He's also a former college athlete, a dynamic public speaker, and a great father. He started an executive search firm 30 years ago and was recently acquired by Veritas Management Group in 2003. Let's bring on our guest, Jeremy Sisemore. How you doing, Jeremy?
I am doing good, Des. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. Now, are you sitting there in Missouri right now, or where are you, Houston?
I'm in Houston, Texas, although I did go to University of Missouri. I lived in St. Louis for about 10 years, but I am in Houston, and I'm originally a Texan as well. So back home.
All right. So you're back home. Hey, I want to dive right in with you, man. We were talking last week, and I asked you the question, what are you excited about these days? And you said you just really did something that was big, something that you didn't necessarily know that you was going to do. It just all came together. But talk to me about that thing that you was able to do recently that you're so excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I started my business, my search firm business in 2006. But I had recruited for years for someone else before I started my own company, right? And so about 17 years of having a successful business. It was a cash flow business. It was a quality of life business. And I was kind of comfortable, Des. I was kind of in my comfort zone. It's kind of on cruise control, but I wasn't scaling and growing the last 5 years the way I really wanted to. And an opportunity came knocking on our door to maybe be acquired. And so we went through that process. It was a 9-month process. And ultimately, at the end of 2023, we were acquired by Veritas Management Group out of Alpharetta, Georgia. And they're bigger than we were. It allowed us to really leverage an entire leadership team that had a different set of skills than we did. And it gave us hope to kind of get out of our rut and to have a whole nother chapter of scaling and growing. I'm 47, and you know, I just haven't achieved everything I wanted to in life. And this was an opportunity to get out of that comfort zone,
Hmm.
surround myself with other great people, and to achieve something that's greater than just one person can achieve by themselves. And so we're excited about that. And Veritas Management Group's now our parent company. And then I'm staying on to run the division called ASAP Talent Services. So super excited about that. And you've caught me about, let's see, I'm about 4 months into that merger and going through all this
Very new.
integration activity. Yes, sir. Yep.
So you were doing well. I mean, you didn't have to do anything. You like you say, you was in a comfort zone. What else is there for you to grow into?
Yeah. Well, some very famous people, more intelligent than I, have said that if you're not growing, you're dying. Well, when you get into that kind of comfort zone that I was in, I was making good money. I was having a pretty good quality of life. But I was just doing the same thing year in and year out and quarter over quarter. I wasn't growing anymore. And you find yourself, you're strong in certain things, so you can be great at the whatever that thing is that you're strong at. But I wasn't growing in other areas of my business life that I needed to. I need to, I'm really good at business development and sales, and that's great. But I'm not great or as great as I could be at scaling and growing and hiring and kind of scaling a business past $2 to $5 million. Whereas the people that I'm now joined up with, they've been in business 8 years and they're already pushing 30 million. So how can I get some of that, right? I'm
Right.
like, what do they have, and how do I go get me some of that? I want to learn from people those skill sets that maybe haven't just been as natural to me, and just be part of a great team, like you said earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're definitely going to jump into that team. But before we get into the team aspect, I want to dig more into your personal life and take me back to the start. Take me back to how you was raised. Take me back to where you grew up at, because I feel like when people are able to achieve, a high level of success, there's a story that comes along with that everybody needs to know, because they see Jeremy Sisemore now, the successful entrepreneur, but take me back to the younger Jeremy Sizemore and tell me that story to how you evolved to where you're at now.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a great question. And it's one of the things that when you came and spoke to our group, I was really identifying with your message as you told your story. But for me, I didn't have it easy as a kid. I got knocked down a lot. Had to kind of build some internal, grit, if you will. I grew up
Mm-hmm.
in the Panhandle of Texas. Ended up moving to the Houston area in high school. Single mom raised me. Had some siblings. We were, I think at the time I thought that I was middle class, but we were probably lower middle class. I mean, we did not. My mom didn't she was a single school teacher, single mom,
Mm-hmm.
3 kids. Working paycheck to paycheck. Had a good work ethic, instilled certain things in us. But financially, I mean, I had to buy my own first car.
Mm-hmm.
My brother, who's 5 years older than me, helped me get my first vehicle. College athletics opened doors for me that I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have otherwise had. So I was able to get a partial scholarship and go and dive at University of Missouri on the swimming and diving team there. And so college athletics had a lot to do with who I was as a young person. I got good grades. I stayed out of trouble. I got lucky that the friends that I hung out with had really strong nuclear families that were very functional. I was able to, kind of through osmosis, get in there, and like my best friend was like my brother, and I basically lived with them for part of my high school. And so I thank God for the people that were put into my life because they really had I think there's nature versus nurture. There's what's in your DNA, and then there's the people that are around you,
Mm-hmm.
have a huge impact on who you become, and so yeah, so college athletics really opened a lot of doors for me, helped me get my 4-year degree, and instilled qualities into me that I think led me to get into the business that I'm in, sales and recruitment. Some of that was just in my DNA, being an extroverted kind of social personality type. But
Mm-hmm.
the college athletics instilled the competition-driven work ethic, the team stuff that you were talking about, the ability to go work through perseverance and not get dejected or knocked down, let stuff bounce off of you and kind of, look forward, not backward. And so I owe a ton to the people around me through college athletics and coaching, and the fact that those doors opened up to allow, a poor kid from Texas to achieve things that most people thought, that the deck could have been stacked against me.
Absolutely. And before we even get to more to the college and get into the professional life, you mentioned your mom, and you mentioned that she instilled a lot of things into you. What were some of those foundational things early on in life that was instilled into you that helped to carry you to college, through college, and on into your professional career? What was those foundational principles?
My mom and my aunts and uncles and my relatives were hard workers. First of all,
Mm-hmm.
they grew up in farming areas, and we woke up early. We worked hard, and going to sleep was easy because we were so exhausted. Um, and I think I learned that your happiness is not dependent on the amount of money that you make. Um, that was something that was instilled in me, and so I I think back on it as like, you didn't know you were poor, but looking back on it, I was,
Right. It
but
was just normal back then. It was
you
just the way
only
it
know what
was.
you know. As a
Right.
kid, you just know what you know, right?
Exactly.
So those are things I think that was instilled. My mom had it hard, but you know what? Each month we made it through, and
Mm,
we got through to live another day and another day and another day. And she's in such a better place now, later in life. But at that point in her life, as a young mom with 3 kids and being a single mom school teacher, that kind of perseverance, that kind of adversity on you as a young person, what you don't want that, you don't ask for that, but it forges you to some extent to become that person that has grit. And so it's like, whatever negative that happens to you, if you look at it through the right lens,
yes.
it forges you to have a lot of strength in your character,
And it's
and
about choice.
grit.
It's a choice
Yeah.
how you want to look at it. Did you pay attention to your mom? Did you really look at her and say, "Man, she's struggling," and really was that cognizant to you to help you make choices?
I think yes. I think even as a fairly young person, you do say, you know, and every parent wants that next generation to be better than they, to have it better than they,
Hmm.
to improve that next generation. And so, but yeah, you kind of look at things and you say, I want better. I want to break that cycle. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then I think as you mature, you look back and say, even those things that might have felt negative, you say that also gave me some positive attributes as to who I became, right?
Hmm.
So that definitely happened when I think about my mom.
I don't know where I read this. I don't know where I got it from. You mentioned about your friends having a huge influence over you, your circle, right? And this gets into the corporate America and the business world. I read this and it said willpower is not greater than your environment. So it sounds like that you put yourself in an environment where it cultivated your personality, your disciplines, and who you became as a person. How important is that once you get out into the business world? How important is that people find that environment?
I think it's huge. Being an executive search guy, I almost counsel people on careers all the time. and especially younger people and like college athletes at Mizzou. I'll help mentor them. And one of the things I talk about with people is, sometimes it's better to make a calculated decision to be at company A over company B, even though maybe company B is offering a little more money to you, right? Like,
Mhm.
what other variables are there? And so, for example, yeah, the career path. Who am I surrounding myself with? Where could I be in 5 years if I went with this company versus that company? And so, those other variables are super important. Um, you and I share, athletics, and when an athlete surrounds themselves with a bunch of people that are at a higher level and more talented than they are, I think you either rise or sink to the level of those around you. you know,
Yeah.
and so when I started diving with people that were, NCAA national qualifier level and, kind of on the verge of Olympic trials level in the kind of sport that I was in, you know, you're going to get better real fast because that's what you surround yourself with. That's what you're seeing every day, and so when you learn through osmosis training like that, and you throw yourself into the fire with other people that are at a certain level, I think it's human nature that most people will. And I guess it could spit some people out as well, but I think a lot more people than would give themselves credit for will most likely rise to the level of those around them. And it was important to me. I've seen people in my life that I knew from high school or whatever, but likewise, you surround yourself with the wrong people, then that same exact thing will happen, where people spin out of control, find themselves in the wrong, hanging out with the wrong people. They're doing the wrong things. They get the wrong result. And so, the people you surround yourself with, if someone said, "What is one of the most important things that leads to your success?" That's got to be a top two, top three kind of answer. Is the
Yeah.
people that you surround yourself with, for sure.
And I think I have younger, well, older kids, but they're young in their early 20s. I have twins that's 21. I have a 25-year-old son. I have a 12-year-old son. And what I see from that generation is that everybody wants to be in the cool crowd, right? Instead of making that hard choice of, yeah, the cool crowd is good, but when it's time to go to work, I need to surround myself with the people who are going to help me get to where I'm going. And you said something earlier. You said the level, rise to the level. I had this, and I'm not lying to you. It's right there. A question that I was going to ask you to get your perspective on. The quote says, "We don't rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training." And what I just heard from you is that when you have friends that are of high character, they do things differently. They have different disciplines. They have different ways of practicing. So therefore you're getting that excellent training. So your level is always raised up because you're going to fall to the level of your training. You never rise to the level of your expectations. And that's what I heard from you. So are we saying the same thing?
Absolutely. I think a lot of variables happen when you surround yourself with great people. They become part of your accountability group. That's part of it. You're
Hmm.
learning through osmosis, right? You're picking up on things. It gives you a group to ask questions of, to learn from. It's no coincidence that, when people, let's say that someone's in a network of just high net worth people. Well, all of a sudden you're hearing ideas of how to invest your money. You're hearing business ideas. You're hearing all this stuff, and then you have these ideas that you can then put into action, right? Growing and scaling a company, entrepreneurship, starting a business, whatever it is. But when you have mentors and accountability groups of other people that are further along on a similar path that you want to be on, you kind of say, hey,
Hmm.
that's someone I can emulate. That's someone I could learn from. And then if you develop a close tie with them, not only are you learning from them, but and you can pick their brain, but they can almost become an accountability group of sorts. And just the natural thing that happens is you're now, you're kind of doing similar things, you're taking actions, you're doing things that are similar to those people that are further ahead on that same kind of path that you want to be on. And it's not rocket science. You and I were, I think, at some point we were talking about, how difficult is it to be successful, or uh, it's not always rocket science. These are recipes. There's recipes for success. There's formulas, and you learn these same formulas and recipes that other people learned way before we did. And you say, okay, I could do that. I can do that if I just try. And you get in there, and then one step at a time, and you can achieve great things when you're hanging out with those kind of people.
There's an entrepreneur that's watching this, and that entrepreneur is looking at Jeremy Sisemore and saying, "Okay, Jeremy, you sold a company, search firm. It doesn't have to be a search firm. Whatever it was, you was able to develop it. You was able to sell it, exit. Great, like that. That's what I want to do." And then you just said, "Hey, the recipe for success is not some esoteric thing that is way out there that you can't grab a hold to." What was your recipe? What is your recipe for success, to have the success that you've had?
Yeah, first off, when I started a business, I think know yourself, and so
Mm,
what I mean by that is I knew that I work well around other people. I work better in a team than I do solo. So I immediately talked my best friend into quitting his job and starting a company with me on day one, right? I mean, and that was the best friend I was talking about from high school, that I lived with, someone that I trusted, but also just because I wanted an accountability partner. I know that I have pretty good self drive and self ambition and all that, but I'm absolutely the kind of person that won't stand someone up. College athletics drilled into me to be on time or early. Early is on time. I mean, our coach would nail us to the wall if we were late. And so by having an accountability partner, I'm going to also have better work ethic, because my success, I'm not the only one impacted by my success. If you own a business and have other people within your business, other employees, and you're going to grow and scale, one of the really powerful things about owning a business is you're impacting other people's lives. And in a way, you are responsible to help other people be successful. And then they're providing for their spouse and their family and their kids. And so when you think about it that way, you wake up every day with a mission, and you wake up every day with failure isn't an option, and then that helps to get your mindset right to be successful, right? And then I think depending on different types of businesses, there are roadmaps. If you don't know that business, franchises, for example, and in getting to know other people that have successful businesses like that, and then we built up an accountability group where each it was six of us. We all owned our own search firm, but we would
mm.
act like each other's board of directors. We would do annual business planning. We would quarterly. We would get together and talk about what we said we were going to do and did we do it? If not, why? And it gave us a sounding board. And you can leverage other people's strengths and weaknesses, which is outstanding as well when you have a bigger team like that. Is that some people are stronger in a certain area than you are, and then you can go to that person as that strength area and learn from them. And people are good. People want to share, and so you have to seek out wise counsel, and
Mhm.
that's part of being a good business owner. And that was part of my roadmap for success, right there, Des.
It just really sounds like you put yourself in the best possible environment at all times. In that
Try your
environment,
best.
they say high tides raise all ships. Did I say that right?
Yeah, I think that's it. I love that quote.
It's something like that. If I didn't nail it exactly. You mentioned teams. You mentioned having a trusted partner, accountability partner. When you think about teams, because I think you you said it, if you run into somebody and say, "Man, I did this all by myself," or no, that's something that I heard in another one of my interviews. They said that they'll tell them right away, "No, that's not true." I feel like teams, you can't be as successful as you can possibly be if you don't have a great team around you. So my question is, what's the most major component to building a great team?
Yeah, that's a hard question to answer, but a couple of thoughts on that. Number one, even if you're solo, you have a team. You know, your team can be your peer network, your team can be your spouse, your team can be your mentor, your CPA, your attorney, your law firm, your website
Hmm.
developer. You use third parties, right? And so even solo people have a team. So once you have that mindset and you realize they're your team, it might change how you treat people. And how you treat people has a lot to do with the success you have later in life. You know, like if you believe in the concepts of pay it forward, if you believe in the concept of what you put out there comes back to you tenfold, those kind of concepts, then team has a lot to do with that. Um, but I think, and then as a leader of teams, being that servant leader, I think for me has been kind of a big thing, to kind of, lead by example and help set vision. But how do you get people to think as a we, and to look to the future and beyond? I think communication's big, shared vision. And so CEOs help set vision. And can you create a shared vision that people can really rally behind? Right. That's a big component of teams. And, Des, I coach springboard diving. It's a very mental sport. It's a very technical sport. And it's a sport that fills people with fear, right? Let's say they're on a 10-meter platform and they're going to be spinning 3.5 revolutions, hitting the water at 35 miles an hour. Their
I'm
head's
already
coming,
scared.
their head's coming that close to hitting a concrete platform. And, yeah, it's a scary type of sport. People are scared of heights, right?
Right.
And so there's a lot of principles in the sport of diving and coaching diving that we look at for teams and business. And one of those is, to put your focus into where you want to go, not to what you're afraid of happening to you. And so
Mm-hmm.
divers, they'll get up there and, if you have the diver that will think about all the bad things that might happen to them, if that's where their mental energy and focus is, then like they're going to smack, like they're going to be toast. They're about to crash. And it's also been said of race car drivers, if they focus on the inside line as they go around and they focus on where they're going to be successful. But the minute they take their eye off and they focus on the wall and start thinking they're going to hit the wall, they hit the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of my big things that I talk about when I talk about, leadership is, or even just the concept of success is put your mental energy and focus on what you have to do to be successful. Focus on where you're going. Focus on what you're going to do. But too many people get hung up on dwell. And that's a resiliency thing, right? Like when something negative happens to you, how long is it going to impact you? How
Yes.
long is it before you turn the page, move past that? We're on the day after Super Bowl. So what
Yes.
happened to the Chiefs in quarter one? Pacheco fumbled the ball.
Mm-hmm.
If his mindset is to sit there and dwell on how he just screwed his team and they're probably going to lose, then they probably do lose. But the elite athletes, just like the successful business people, they learn from it. What can I learn from it? That's a negative. Something happened. How do I learn? But then they move forward and they focus on the future and they focus on what they can control.
What's
You know,
next?
yeah. What's
Because you
next?
can't control what happened. It's done. It's
That's
done.
right.
You mentioned something, and it to me it was all about getting commitment from your team. Think as we. That's what you said.
Mm-mm.
I love that. Think as we. How do you go about cultivating commitment from your team, even when it's something that maybe not everybody is agreed upon on, but you still get
Yeah.
that commitment for everybody to move forward in the same direction.
Yeah, it's a great topic. The more larger and complex teams have a lot of what you're talking about, right? And so as much as possible, I love the servant leader approach to asking questions and seeing if you can guide people to the same answer that you want. Because when they have that kind of buy-in where when they're part of the team that's helping decide where we are going, that's
Hmm.
really powerful because they're part of it. But you know, great teams, there are times when the coach, the head coach, or the CEO has to make an executive decision. And there's times when these three or four think this way and these three or four think this way. And there's competing values and competing perspectives, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing to do is to try to come up to the greater good of what is this company trying to achieve. What's our big why? Not individually what the CFO's why is, because that's finance and accounting related, or the
Mm-hmm.
VP of supply chain, his why or her why is very much around purchasing, procurement, and inventory and supply chain. But what's the greater good of the company? What is all of our role in that? We're all puzzle pieces in this big puzzle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once we know the greater why, then the decisions that we have to make have to be in alignment with that, the larger vision. And each people will have their own perspectives and visions based on their exact role in a company. Um, but it ultimately is up to the CEO to ultimately make a final decision and to get everyone on the same page that this is our mission, and sometimes to even make tough choices. People talk about the right people on the bus, and then the
Right.
right people in the right seats, and then there could be people that the wrong person's on the bus or in the wrong seat, and that is a skill that people can get better at, is admitting it and not believing your own lies, knowing the truth, that's going to set you and your company free, and making that tough decision, because it's like getting the right people into the right seats, and then having a shared vision, and the CEO making and bringing clarity. So that's communication. It's just bringing
Yeah.
clarity, the executive clarity around this is our. We want to encourage vigorous debate. Most great executives will say that, and hopefully they really do, because you want to hear different ideas and opinions, but ultimately someone has to make our final choice, our final decision based on
And
all
you
that
pro-
input.
and you probably just answered the next question that I had in my mind. Would you say that the best teams are teams that have more or less conflict? And when I say conflict, I'm talking about good conflict where there's debates, there's arguments. Sometimes it may be people get heated because they're so passionate and walk out
Yeah,
of the meeting, but they come back in and like, I just had to go blow off some steam because I was really passionate.
yeah.
Or is it the teams that they all get along all the time? Which ones in
Well, I
your
think it's probably like marriage. If you never, ever, 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 ever fight, someone's holding something deep down, and that's a pressure cooker situation that's going to eventually explode,
mm,
and it's unhealthy. And so I think you want healthy debate and conflict, but part of it is how you kind of make up after the healthy conflict. It's not personal, it's business. And then
mm-hmm,
how you all come back together and say, okay, we've hashed it out on the table. We figured out our game plan. Now we're all in unison and cohesion on the game plan, and now we're moving forward again. But
right.
you want to encourage that kind of conflict, and they talk about it with great teams in football and basketball, and is that you can sometimes have the greatest players individually, but then the team underperforms. And you're like, why? And then, how does this other team, they didn't necessarily have as many Hall of Famers, but why were they such a great team? And
Mm-hmm,
and it's the ability to be selfless. It's ability to get on the same page. It's how that team dynamic works, that 2 plus 2 ends up being 16, because there's an amplifier effect, I think, to
mm-hmm.
great teams that are working in harmony. And that's something that we're all looking for, because on a 1 to 10 scale, you're probably never a 10. You just have to realize, are we a 7? Are we an 8? Are we a 6? And how do we get better each day, each quarter, each year?
Right, and it's a very intentional thing. Great teams, like I say, you have a bunch of great individuals, but great teams, they become great teams because of the attention that they give to the intention of developing those teams through building trust, through being honest with each other. So my 2016, didn't win the Super Bowl. Had a couple flashbacks about the Super Bowl. You just passed it,
Sorry about that.
but I felt like that team was very, very honest. We were really tight. We had very good cohesion. We had very good culture. And you said another word, And I always say these three things: cohesion, culture, and clarity from our head coach. He wasn't a man of a whole lot of words. He was very succinct in what he had to say. You understood what he meant, and now let's go get to work at it.
Yeah.
So, maybe my last question for you. When you think about things, or let's just go to books. What books have you read that you would say, hey, this book helped to shape me as an entrepreneur, that helped me to become a good entrepreneur? And then I think I asked you this prior to coming on. Who are one or two really good people that not only I should try to connect with, but if anybody's listening to this podcast should try to connect with, so they can glean more leadership, more entrepreneur principles that will get them to the next level.
Yeah. Well, so my parent company, my new parent company, we had just had a leadership retreat. We just came off of it, Des, and we studied two books coming into that meeting because they run EOS level 10 methodology.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the books there was How to Be a Great Boss. And there's multiple books by the same author that have to do with kind of that EOS and level 10. It's a leadership training for, I think it's called the entrepreneurial operating system is what
Mm-hmm.
EOS stands for. But that How to Be a Great Boss was really great. And it talked a lot about this healthy conflict that you and I were just talking about. So also, it's one that probably tons of people have heard of or read, but Good to Great. Good to Great was awesome.
That's great. Yeah.
Love that book. Love that book. And so there are so many out there. I think the big thing is that there's not one magic golden book per se, but you read those books and you get several like golden nuggets that are awesome. It's really your ability to implement and execute a few of those, not to be overwhelmed by how many things, we go to a conference, we go to a training, we come back with these 100 things we're going to do. I think one thing that served me well over my career is to just really take 2 to 3 significant things in a year that I can do,
Mm-hmm.
and then focus in on them and go do them. It's implementing and execution that really gets a lot of people, because we get overwhelmed with so many things we could do that we end up not doing any of it, or taking
Right.
these great notes and then not putting it into practice. And so someone, I forget who I learned this from. I think it was a guy named Jeff Kay, Next Level Exchange. He's industry specific to recruiting, but he had a deal like when you come back from these conferences or you hear something great, is to take 1 or 2 things that are easy to implement, okay, and then you take
Mm-hmm.
1 or 2 things that are like you could implement in a quarter, and then but for the annual, you just take 1 or 2 things that year that's a hard lift, a heavy lift, something that's hard to implement and execute. Because to create change or implement something new, you have to focus on something for 2 to 3 months and do it daily and weekly, daily and weekly, daily and weekly, because it won't become a habit unless you can do that. They've studied, human psychology on
Yeah.
this. And so to me, that's the big thing that ties in with books is read them, get some osmosis learning, but
Make a couple.
narrow down on those few things and then go do it. Go implement something, go execute on it. And then next year you'll have a new set of things to do. Yeah.
1 or 2 people.
1 or 2 people. Well, for any business owner, any person that just wants to reprogram their mind and get their mind right, for me, it's Tony Robbins. I've been to Tony Robbins 3 different times, at least 3 or 4 times. And he's got this UPW thing. And if your head's not in the right place, I think the number one predictor of success and failure is right between your ears. It's your mindset. And so Tony Robbins
Hold on.
be the one.
Hold on. Let's just stop right here, because I want AI to catch this clip. What is the biggest predictor for success? Say it one more time for
To
me.
me, it's right between your ears. It's your own mindset. It's
I,
and in the morning, people that have figured this out, when you get your mind right, like as soon as you can in the day, the whole rest of your day is going to be awesome, and Tony's really good about reprogramming your mindset, your brain. Yeah, That would be my biggest my biggest one person that, and he's got a lot of great free stuff out there. You can, go listen to a little bit of a sampling of Tony Robbins on YouTube and get clips and this and that. But man, he helped me when I was in a rough patch and got my mind right. And I know many people that are entrepreneurs that have credited him for like 10x multiplier over revenues over year one, being in a rough patch, going to him, and then like literally 180-degree turn on their business. So, and it doesn't matter what industry or what you do. Anyone that doesn't have their mind right, and it could be health, could be diet, could be work, could be depression, is he changed a lot of people's lives. So that would be my one.
And let's sum all of this up as we get ready to exit. Jeremy Sisemore, principle of winning, or greatest principles to winning up to this point in your life is, finish it off.
I would say the biggest thing is the people you surround yourself with, because I think it's going to impact your behavior, your attitudes, your osmosis learning, the decisions you make, the accountability. And so the people you surround yourself with, seek out wise counsel, learn and listen, and then you just got to give it a shot.
Go out and execute.
You're never going to make the shot you don't take. So go for
it. Never. Hey, and while we're talking about it, never leave a birdie putt short.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Go for it. Right. Hey, I appreciate it, Jeremy. Hey, it's been wonderful getting to talk to you even more. And I know this is going to be great for all the listeners out there, taking all of these different nuggets that you've been able to lay out for us. Hey, you use them, you are successful. And this is the thing about success. You already said it. There's no secret to it. It's just about having the right mindset, having the right framework, surrounding yourself around the right people, getting the right disciplines and game plan together, and just going out there and executing. And is it going to happen in a linear fashion? No, you're going to fall, you're going to fail, you're going to trip, but you got to get back up. You got to keep going. You got to keep knowing that if you keep stacking up great decisions and keep stacking up great days, you will get there. That's the principle of winning for me. Just keep stacking wins day by day, and you will eventually win the entire game. Hey, Jeremy, I appreciate it. If people want to follow you, where can they go? I know you can get on LinkedIn. Anywhere else?
I'm on LinkedIn. Last name is spelled Sisemore, but I'm on LinkedIn and asaptalentservices.com for our website, and very approachable. So if I can help anyone out, give me a buzz.
Yeah, he's a speaker. He does all this, so he gives out great content. Go follow the man. He'll help get your mind right. He'll warm you up so you can get over there to Tony Robbins, and then Tony Robbins will get you all the way right. But no, I appreciate it, Jeremy. I'm just joking about that, man. Great guy, great dude. I always enjoy talking to you, and hopefully everybody else gets what they supposed to get out of this, and that's another principle of winning. Thank you so much.